anytime, any day, and you feel comfortable doing it. That's one aspect of it that I like so much. Every blessed day, I eat fufu every day. And of course, one of the fantastic things that you can ever get. So I don't joke with it.
Though scientists often would caution against the consumption of any excreta or fecal matter, but the stomach contents or the fecal matter of these bush animals have positive reviews. Professor Engman explains why consuming the stomach contents of the carcass, or what many say is the fecal matter of these bush animals, is not harmful but beneficial.
It is a delicacy for some. The cooking process sort of kills the microorganisms that will be present in the meat. And so in terms of microbial safety, there is some level of safety. Yeah, because the cooking kills them and then it confers flavor to the food that is consumed. So the way the food is prepared is also important. Yes. So this is key. The advice also is that those that are removed from the intestines are that which we advise for consumption if you are interested in consuming that, rather than the feces, the pellets that have come out.
Well, I hope you enjoyed today's episode of Food Chain. It has been very interesting and educating. I'm excited you join us, and I hope you join us again next week for another exciting episode of Food Chain. My name is Praise Apia. See you in our next edition.
Fear syndrome in Ghana, and part of the fear syndrome was that people thought that we had a security system that was not, across board. We favored a particular class of people in office who were too big to be touched, and therefore the tenet of rule of law, that we are equal before the law, was not tenable. And also we had a professionalism at the time that we were not training people adequately, we were not equipping them, and that's what we sought out to deal with. And therefore, as far as I'm concerned, we've made a lot of progress along that line. Police system now that is professional, that will arrest you whether you are MP, whether you are minister. When you commit an offense, you are arrested and you are dealt with. And above all, they will arrest you if you are a policeman or policewoman. They will deal with you. And now, under this dispensation, they will arrest you if you are a policeman or policewoman. They will deal with you. And now, under this dispensation,
we have never been attacked by terrorists before. We've had the incumbent handing over power to the opposition without asking questions. We need to consolidate that democracy. And one of the ways that can happen is through the building of confidence. Because once people start having these misconceptions and these suspicions, some of them very unfounded, then it becomes, a matter of grave concern, especially for those of us within the security space. So we cannot afford to rubbish this. An investigation has to be carried out. In fact, there are so many softwares you can use to know and even compare voices to be sure that this voice is from that person and it's not a deep fake, etc. So we cannot afford to let it slide like other issues, it has happened with other issues. Okay, we need to consolidate the democracy, and one of the ways to achieve that is through accountability.
What sort of impact is this likely to have on the police administration itself? Now, the IGP probably has heard this. He will be looking over his shoulder. So, from how you understand these issues, what's going to happen now? What impact will it have?
Well, I must say, when the IGP was first appointed, I'm one of the persons who spoke highly of the appointment based on his track record, what he has achieved in the past. In fact, when you even go on Wikipedia, and Google the IGP, I'm one of those persons cited. So from day one, I have had, a lot of confidence in him. He has also proven beyond reasonable doubt that he's up to the task. Recently, there was a video of a Fulani girl who was manhandled. She was assaulted. And I spoke about it in the media. He called me. He quickly arranged a meeting between myself and him and the leaders of the Fulani community. So they get to tell their people to exercise restraint and not to take matters into their own hands because of the video. And guess what? We were on with the IGP up until midnight just to make sure that those persons were arrested. And by 3 a.m., they were arrested. By 5 a.m., he called me, Adi, we've gotten them. So that should tell you, he goes down to the ground. I even saw Nigerian media talking highly of him. When he met the school kids, he went down, he spoke with them, he led them to school. They were like, in Nigeria, you can't see this. You can't see the IGP out there. So he has proven that he's up to the task. Please, let the man do his work. Okay?
So yes, he will be allowed to do his work. But from this tape, possibly, some peace or unity in the administration will be ruffled. Wouldn't there be anything like that? Wouldn't he now start to be looking over his shoulders to say, who's coming after me?
Well, the IGP, Dampare, I know is very focused. I'm not his spokesperson, but based on my relationship with him, I'm not sure that it's something that is going to make him worried because Ghanaians are the judge. We know what work he's done in the past and what he's capable of doing going into next year's election. The Asin North is a test case. Some of us were worried that there could be violence, but when you look at the security arrangements put in place, I think he did a great job. So I don't think it's going to affect the way he does his job. My only concern is this tape consolidating or reaffirming, so to speak, people's existing belief about some people wanting to rig the process. We've heard it a number of times. Talking about breaking the 8 and how to break the 8. We're talking about some in opposition, whatever it will do, they will do for them to come to power, they will also do it and all that. So we are at a crossroad. Okay, so issues like this matter because it resonates with the people. Okay, and once they begin thinking that my opponent is after something, then they might also take matters into their own hands, and that could be, cataclysmic to our democracy.
Okay. Now, Mukhtar Momuni is also joining us on this. He is someone with expertise in security as well. Grateful to you, sir, for joining us. Now, Adib says that this is a serious matter that must be looked at. I'm sure you have listened to the tape as well. As a person, when you heard what were being said, looked at, I'm sure you have listened to the tape as well. As a person, when you heard what were being said